All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Bon, bah on y va, hein. Je rêve. Ce jeu peut vraiment être glauque par moment.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ouais, ça va, je vous suis. On va obéir, hein.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
J'ai marché sur un truc. Bon.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Il monta les marches jusque... Non, on va descendre. Allez hop, c'est parti. Quoique... Ce jeu commence à me foutre les boules. Je commence carrément à avoir peur d'y jouer. Oh, et puis on y va. Je devrais pas y jouer après 11 heures aussi.
But Stanley just couldn't do it.
Non.
He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours.
Exact.
He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk?
Exact.
All because he believed
DeLorean.
everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy.
Mais
And
oui.
then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
Non.
All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
Wow.
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever
Mais oui,
he went?
pourquoi?
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
Oui.
Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
Mais oui.
This is all a dream.
Mais oui. Je suis en train de rêver. Tout ceci n'est qu'un
To
rêve.
have finally
Bah voilà.
found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well
Oula, les
enjoy
sous-titres partent en
this
couille.
while
Voilà,
I'm
c'était
still
ça ce que je voulais
lucid.
pas.
So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Ouais, oh.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It
Oula.
was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up.
Whoa.
How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Oh,
Now the
merde.
voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found
Oula.
it particularly strange.
pas faux.
I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And
Oula.
while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for it?
Tournant.
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Ouais.
Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control. That this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up.
Oula.
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back,
Ouais.
the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself.
Screamer.
I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please,
Je regarde la télé.
it's all I want.
Il y a des chats.
I
Il y a
want
des
my
chiens.
apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal.
I'm normal!
Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Oula, ça fout les boules là, stop. Oh.
Stanley began screaming. Please,
Ah!
someone wake me up. My name is Stanley.
Whoa,
I
whoa,
have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must
Whoa.
be. Can anyone hear
Whoa,
my
whoa,
voice?
no, 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 no.
Who am I? And everything went black.
Oh. Oh putain.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work.
Holy fucking
But on
shit,
this
it
particular
poop!
day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
What?
And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
C'est une happy end, je suppose. What? Putain, mais... Stop! J'en profite pour sauvegarder, tiens. Ah, oui. C'est bon. Alors, Stanley est mort. Oh, j'en peux plus. Bon, allez, j'y retourne. La suite.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ça va loin. Ce jeu va très très loin, bordel de merde.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
Oui, je
he
prends
entered
celle de
the door on
gauche.
his left.
On sait pas si on va lui obéir un petit peu, hein, parce que... oh, c'était violent, ça.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Eh non.
Feeling a wave of disbelief,
Ah oui.
Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Broom closet. J'ai vu dans d'autres vidéos ce qui se passe quand on y va, c'est pas intéressant. On y va.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ouais. C'est vrai que c'est pas faux que c'est... Je sais même pas ce que je voulais dire, je suis en train de péter les plombs. Attendez. Non, fuck! Merde. Bon. Le bureau du boss. C'est par là.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Oh,
Shocked,
c'est
unraveled,
immense.
Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845.
5, hein.
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Bien sûr. Oh, un keypad. Alors 7 0 0 0. 5 7 7 1. C'est bien.
Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad,
Ben, c'est comme ça qu'on
full
trouve, hein.
well the sheer statistical unlikelihood that this would ever result in a correct combination.
Qui t'a dit ça,
If
connard?
he knew that the combo was 2845,
Ah!
it would be another story entirely. But
8.
no, this is what he was going to do instead.
4 6, c'est ça? Merde. Alors, 5, 4, 8, 2.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know.
Mais non,
that the
justement, je ne sais
combination
pas,
was
j'en ai aucune idée.
2845.
Regardez, ma date de naissance, tiens. 05 07. L'année.
2845.
36 15. Code ficelle. Bing. Alors. 1980.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Well, whoop-de-doo. Allez, on y va. J'ai pas d'ombre. Oh, quel gros tuyau, mademoiselle. Oh merde. Oh le lapsus de merde. Allez. Demi-tour. Merde. J'en profite pour vous dire que j'ai déjà vu quelques petites vidéos, mais je me suis pas trop spoilé, par exemple les vidéos de PewDiePie. Et je me suis arrêté justement à la scène de la salle de ballet. Mais après je me suis après je me suis arrêté. Putain, j'ai hâte de voir la suite.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar.
C'est vrai.
It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him?
C'est pas faux.
This question would not go unanswered for long.
J'ai aucune foutue envie de continuer.
Quand c'est tout, j'ai déjà